To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. Man, it is a beautiful day today. We just came out of 2 days of pretty hard freeze, and now it's in the 50s. Oh, just magnificent temperature. Man, it's like a spring day. This is gonna be great. I'm gonna really enjoy living here. It's just looking out over the woods, and I can't tell you how many times you look out there and you'll see deer just walking around, bouncing around. It's fantastic. So today, I'm not doing much with the tiny house. We just came out of Christmas. This is Saturday for me. I don't work too much on Saturdays. And I had a problem this morning that I'm going to address with you in a few minutes. But today, I'm going to go through some questions and answers. What I'm waiting for is, this is Saturday, next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, I'm supposed to get the shower. I've ordered the shower, and then we can start putting the floor down, the flooring material. I think probably next week or the week after, I'm going to just go ahead and buy the ceiling. We're going to buy tin metal like this, except it's silver, not rusted. And we're going to put it on the ceiling. And finally, I think the only thing I really got left to do is electrical. I got to run electrical up to the tiny house from the battery bank is what I'm going to call it. It's going to be down in camper. Of course, I still want to put a roof on the porch here. But that is going to wait until the springtime because I got to pour concrete. What we've decided to do with the roof of the porch, I don't want to attach the porch to the house. I worked very hard not attaching it here, and so I don't want to attach it there either. So what I'm going to do, Carolyn and I talked about this quite a bit, is we're going to run a 4x4 post on each corner up, and then we'll run 2x8s at an angle down to the other 4x4. And then we run 2x6s across, put a metal roof on it, and it's done. It's just gonna be a little lean-to is all it's gonna be. And that'll solve two problems at once. One, I have, I don't know, 2 feet of board hanging out here, just kind of out in space on all 4 corners. It's not bouncy, and I don't see any problems with it. But what I can do is I can tie that 4x4 into the corner here, and that'll give it a little extra strength. Yeah, and then we're going to put the 4x4 in concrete on each corner. If you pour concrete in the winter, it freezes. So, I mean, we're just so close to having everything finished. Of course, nothing's ever finished. So we've been going back and forth about the water tank. You know, we have a 275-gallon water tank, IBC water tank. And we've decided we are going to bring it up here. We're going to build a box around it, paint it tan or brown or something. We'll probably put it right here. That way, in the wintertime, I can just run ventilation out to it, put a little DC fan right there, and pump air, you know, pump the hot air into the tank area on the really cold nights. I think that's going to be the best solution. The reason I have hesitated to actually put the tank up here is because that means I would have to run more wire from the battery bank down at the house up to here to run a DC RV pump. And I didn't want to spend the extra money on the wire. So why not just run a hose up here and have the IBC tank down there still? Well, this morning we came up with a solution. Why not just bring a battery up here? We can get a lawnmower battery to run that little RV pump. We can charge it up every day, just plug it into the wall, put a battery charger, charge it up. Much more simple idea. Heck, we could even take the battery out, run it down to the camper, let it charge up for an hour off the solar panels. It doesn't matter. Everything's going to be off solar. So it's hard to explain what it is I want to do, but just know that it was such a simple solution. And I think that's the problem I have sometimes. Sometimes I'm looking for the complex solution, and it just occurred to me, why not get a lawnmower battery? Then we can move the whole tank up here. And I want to get into why we decided talking about the IBC tank this morning with Carolyn and me in a little bit. But we had a serious problem this morning. Another question is are we going to seal up, you know, like with a Thompson water seal, our deck? And the answer is yeah, we will. I've built a deck before. I actually built 2 of them for my old house. You got to let the wood dry for about 6 months to a year, because this is pretty saturated. This is pressure treated lumber. And so it's saturated with all those chemicals. Well, I don't know what they put in it. So you gotta let that dry before you put the Thompson water seal on it. The other question is aren't I worried that the wood is gonna rot, the frame that I built? And no, it's pressure treated or cedar, one of the two. I had to buy cedar also. And that's designed for outdoor environments. Plus we're gonna have the roof over this, so, I mean, it'll get humidity and that kind of thing, but we won't get any really soaking wet rains on it, maybe occasionally from a storm. Carolyn read in a Facebook group that she follows, off-grid Facebook group, that a lot of people were having problems with frozen water. Didn't know what the solution was. And quite honestly, frozen water, there's only one solution. It's such an easy solution too, and nobody seems to follow it. Be prepared for frozen water. It's just that simple. You know, we prepare ourselves for storms in the springtime. When there's a forecast of hail, I bring down a piece of tin and I put it over the solar panels. And then I cover the vehicle so it doesn't get all beat up from the hail. If there's tornadoes in the area, we get prepared to go to the storm shelter, and eventually we're going to build our own storm shelter. It doesn't seem like anybody ever prepares for the cold. But when it comes to water, you just have to prepare. So here's our IBC tank, and you can see that I have a dark tarp over it. Now I would have liked to gotten a black one, but I didn't realize the other day when I went to go get a black tarp that the hardware store was going to be closed for Christmas. They're closed before and after Christmas. And so I just failed to get it. I mean, that was just being, once again, not prepared. So I used a blue one. And believe it or not, the blue one's actually doing really well. So that absorbs the sunlight. So earlier it was like 40 degrees out here. And in there it was 56 degrees is what I've measured. So the other day, it got down to 10 degrees. And I knew it was going to get down to 10 degrees. The water tank doesn't really freeze when it's in the 20s, but it does freeze when it gets down into the teens. And so it got down to 10 degrees. And sure enough, I had a half a ton of ice. It was a big ice cube, huge. Now, what I did to prepare was I made sure that the tank was halfway empty. And I put the tarp on so the sun would beat down on it and help keep it warm, but it still froze. I mean, I knew it was going to freeze. So let's assume that the ice was only 28 or 25 degrees and the outside temperature was 10 degrees. So the tarp helped keep it from getting so frozen. That means less than I have to do to unfreeze it. And then yesterday it was down in the 20s. It was still pretty frozen, but I decided not to do anything with it because I knew today was going to be a warmer day and a sunny day. So this morning I got up, and what I did was I started the well. Now the well water, I measured it this morning, it was 58 degrees. I think it's supposed to be like 62 degrees, but regardless, 58 degrees. So the ice cube in there was right around 24 degrees, best I could tell. I tried to measure it. So I filled the half of the tank that was empty with well water. Now, the other thing I did was I had the tarp here, and of course I run the well off the generator. So I took the generator and I took the exhaust to the generator here, and I covered the generator like this, just enough so it still could get some air. And so all that heat from the generator was going in there. By the time I had the generator heating up and the sun was shining down on it, I had the temperature underneath the tarp at a balmy 68 degrees. And within 20 minutes, all that half a ton of ice, I couldn't believe it, half a ton of ice was melted, and we're pumping water back into the camper with the RV pump. Worked fantastic. Now, what did we do for water while we were in the freezing temperatures? Well, that's not hard either. Here we have the outdoor heat exchanger. We got buckets. We filled the buckets up with water before it froze. That helped reduce the amount of water that was in the tank. And I set one right here on top of the heat exchanger. That heat keeps this hotter than my hand. Now, here's the problem, is this solution won't be a long-term solution. If it had frozen for a week, we'd be in real trouble. So what we'll do, if we're gonna get a long-term freeze, is we'll just empty the tank, just drain it out. And if we need water, I can pump the water from the well, 5 or 10 gallons, into the tank. That way we pump it into the camper, and we'll always have water. It's a lot more work. But hey, that's the part of the off-grid lifestyle that we're all wanting anyways, is to work for ourselves. But I see so many people not prepared. And the first thing they do is they realize, oh, I didn't prepare, and they come out and they're mad. They're mad their water froze. Well, hey, guess what? Water freezes. That's what happens in the winter. Why are you mad? Are you surprised that water froze? So don't be surprised. Just be prepared. Now, like I said, we're going to move the tank up there, and then we're going to build a box around it, and we're going to have ventilation coming from the house into the box. And so we'll never have this problem again after this year. Now, I know there's a lot of things I could have done, and then people are going to tell me what you should have done, what you should have done. Well, I didn't want to do any of that, to be honest, is because I didn't want to spend any money on it this year. I hope I can inspire you to be prepared and not to get mad at silly things. Thanks for watching.